Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Age television talk show, Where Truth Matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon along with my guests. You can find us on television, Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the Newscasters.com and to the radio station right here, WZLA. They're 92.9, the biggest country station in South Carolina. So we're really proud to be part of that as well. Want to thank everybody for making everything happen. Continue sending email, by the way, Donna at donnasedge.com. That's Donna at donnasedge.com. I treasure each email. You're not bothering me one bit. So you keep sending them. And I have learned to look in another file that can go, it's kind of like a trash file or something. So I've learned to go in that. So I had missed some of them, but I'll go ahead and keep looking for that as well. I have Clint Day with me right now, and Clint's a good friend. He is actually with the Newscasters.com. And you guys are, every time I turn around, you guys are growing in leaps and bounds. So what's the secret?
Well, thank you so much, Donna. We appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. And the opportunity is growing, as you said. Newscaster Studios blessed by great people, podcasters like you, and testimonies and stories that you have that really changed lives. And I think there's a real need that the classic case of find a need and fill it. And that's what I grew up in a family. As you know, we've talked about that in the past. Growing up in the Days Inn family, my dad always talked about that. Find a need and fill it. And there's a need for those conservative, the truth, like you said, the truth will set people free. And we want to get the truth out there with our podcasters. And God has really blessed it. And we're grateful for the opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. You know what, Phil and I went back to Alabama to take care of our sponsors there. They all stayed after the move. And so we stayed at the Days Inn there. And
that's fantastic. Well, our family, my dad started in 1970. Our family actually sold it in 1984. My dad had told my mom that he had passed away at 44 from bone cancer. And he told my mom, that's one of the last things he said, sell it in about 5 years so you can do well with it. And that's what she did. But our family still has my dad's name's up there. You know, he started it. And it's a great family memories. I was about 11 when he started it on Tybee Island, Georgia. And that's what I want to encourage people. If they have a dream, they have a vision that God's given them that they want to carry out, I want to encourage them to take the risk and do it.
You know, sometimes it's hard to take the risk. You know, you always think of what ifs, what if it doesn't work out? But what do you answer? What's your answer to that? What if it doesn't work out?
Well, again, I just think we got to do what we feel like God's telling us to do. And to me, the key is to have a relationship with him through his son, Jesus Christ. That's the key thing. And when you get that relationship, he can help guide your steps. One of the things I enjoy doing is reading the Bible, especially Proverbs. It's great wisdom on business, relationships, the way God made things in this world. And that's where really want to point people to first, is get that relationship. And once you get that relationship, you can hear what God wants you to do. And by reading his word, by being around other encouraging people like yourself. One thing I love about what you do, and this is one thing we were taught in our family growing up, is it's got to be a good deal for everybody. It's got to be a win-win situation. And you've always been one of those promoters for us at TNS, the Newscaster Studio. We in turn love to promote what you do. And that's a win-win. That's what we ought to be about. It shouldn't be about competition, jealousy. We want to encourage people to encourage others to be successful with what God's called them to do.
Well, I know we talk about competition, but I've never really thought of competition before. I just haven't. I've just thought, and I'll give you an idea. So I used to work corporate for GTE, and I worked with them for several years. I handled their government and corporate accounts, and my direct competitor was AT&T. And Jan with AT&T held the same position I did with AT&T, and we were competitors, but we were not competitors. So we were friends, and I found out it actually brought in more sales for me, because I would question, this is back in the old days, back when the cell phone service was horrible in most areas. And I was in kind of a rural small town area. And so I knew and not to bash her or anything like that, but I knew where she had good service areas, just like I knew where my bad service areas were. So if I had a customer who said, well, this is where I'm at most of the time, I would say, oh, let me give you Jan's card.
Yeah.
And that was the oddest thing, because I would do that. And so I had several would ask, don't you make a commission? And I would say, yeah, but you're not going to be happy, and you're going to tell everybody in the world that old Donna sent you, knew better, and set you up in an area where you have absolutely no service. And what would happen, as soon as we would get service, I kept those people in my ticker file. And as soon as we got service in the area they wanted, I would say, no, look, I'm not asking you to go away from AT&T. I'm just letting you know that I have that service area now. And I'm going to tell you, I would get that all the time. And so many times people think about what's in it for me now, when really they'd be thinking about the future. What's in it for me in the future? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you're totally right. I mean, I think obviously by doing that, by being honest with those customers, you are building future relationships, because again, they know somebody that's in the better area for your coverage, probably, maybe. And then, of course, I just think about even like my dad. I remember he knew the founder of Holiday Inn, and they became good friends. They were both people of great faith, and they were at a different price point, really, because of the way Dad developed Days Inn. And so I think it's really important, as you said, to be honest with those customers. And you may not get them this time, but you may get them the next time. And like you said, when you expanded coverage and you could cover their area, you were wise to have that file, their name on a file. And you could go back to them. And again, was your price point better? Your coverage the same? So those are things that can help draw those customers. And by being honest with them, they're gonna talk to other friends about you, and the fact that they want to encourage people to do business with you.
Well, it's so simple. And so we had this guy from corporate to ride just to see how I was making all these sales. They wanted to see it. And I said, it's no secret, really. I said, any monkey can do what I do. I mean, all you do is take care of the customer. That has to be number one. But I saw the company heading in a different direction I didn't really like. And what they would do, I handled their problems. I didn't want them to call headquarters. I didn't want them to call customer service.
Sure.
I wanted them to call me. And so the guy comes in and he says, well, you're doing just a little bit too much of that. And I said, in what way? And he said, well, it takes up a lot of time. And I said, but you just said I'm making more sales than anybody. And so I said, I don't want to do that. And he said, I want you to try for a month to give your customers the customer service telephone number and let customer service handle them. Well, I didn't listen to him. And I did not do that. I just could not see it.
Well, we all want relationship, right? We all want relationship, right? Excuse me for interrupting there, but you're right. You took care of your customer. So many times we call corporate helplines, if you will, and they're really customer no service, right? You were given that customer service, and that's the difference in how you succeeded. And so it makes complete sense. When I call someone online, I want to make sure I've already established a relationship. Like, I have a problem with one of my scooters. There's a guy named Matthew that's trying to help me deal with it. Instead of calling and re-explaining the whole story, I'm always going to Matthew's extension. That's number 755. And I remember 755 because that's how many home runs Hank Aaron hit, right? So it's so funny how you remember things. But it was one of those things that I don't want to have to explain it every time. And half the time in customer no service, they don't even hardly speak English. They clearly don't know where you are. And that's a very frustrating thing for a lot of customers. So that relationship, that name of that person is so important. We know our names are the most important names we hear. I mean, obviously Jesus would be for me, of course, but our own names, as we know, is so important to have.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not bashing anybody from another country, but sometimes the communication is key. And sometimes I feel like they're not understanding exactly what I'm, then good old Southern English, Donna.
Exactly.
That even adds to it. But communication is key. We've got to know what our customers need.
Yes, you're so right. And I think about communication. You and I were talking earlier about, kind of where our nation is. Yeah. And the lack of communication between our political parties, if you will. And, we know there's nothing new under the sun. We fought a civil war over this. We see countries around the world going through very difficult times. So there's nothing really new under the sun. But I wish our leaders, we know the word of God says in Proverbs 14:35. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to all people. And so we need to be more about what can we do in communication to help the average American, with health care, with insurance needs, with getting the price of food down, with getting the price of energy down, and other things that we have in common. And I'm just keep praying and I want to encourage our elected officials to figure out where things we can agree on rather than always figure out ways to distract from accomplishing the goals that are best for the people.
That's much better because and I feel the same way you do. I mean, you're right on point. Sometimes it's almost like a distraction to keep from answering the question. Why not just do it right? I mean, why not just listen to the people who voted you in and just go from there? I just don't get it.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we got to do everything we can to communicate the right message. You keep using that word. It's so true to connect with people with those kitchen table needs. And I think that I'm praying and hoping that our country will turn back to that. And also, I'm excited, encouraged by a lot of what President Trump is doing on the international basis. But I really am concerned about what's going on right here in America and our own family needs. And of course, we know that you can't control everything, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and a system. But I think obviously our leadership right now under President Trump is taking us in the right direction. But there are also things we can learn from the other side. I mean, in our own families growing up, we had my dad was more of a Republican, my mom was more of a Democrat, more of a conservative Democrat, that Southern Democrat that we all respected so much growing up. And they've kind of gotten away clearly from that foundation now. The left, if you will, controls that party, as we know. But we got to keep telling the truth. I mean, I love the fact that your show tells the truth and it points people in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Let's talk a little bit about your background because you ran for office too.
Yes, ma'am. I was a former state senator, and I really enjoyed that. The thing that I liked about it the most was when someone had a problem, you could help them fix it. There's so many times you mentioned the bureaucracy you got caught up in sometimes in business, but the government can put up walls that just don't make any sense sometimes. And you can get on the wrong side with a local bureaucrat or whatever. And so I was able to help a lot of people solve a lot of problems. I will admit sometimes I chased rabbits that really the person I learned over time. Okay, if you want me to help you, send me a letter of what you want me to help so I can take your letter to the health department or whatever to help you get help. And half the time, the people wouldn't write the letter. So they wanted me to do the work. So that's important that we clearly articulate to those politicians, if you will. Then I ran for U.S. Senate in '96 when Sam Nunn retired from the U.S. Senate, a great Democrat leader, conservative Democrat leader back in the day in Georgia. And I came in third in that Republican primary. And a lot of times you got to run again. I ran for lieutenant governor in '98, got in a very difficult runoff. I came in second on that one, 51-5 to 48-5. So it was so close. And that gentleman went on to lose to the Democrat that year. And then that next year in 2002, that was '98, 2002, that's when the Republicans took over. And I just needed to focus on other things rather than run again. I really needed to focus on my family. And I'm really glad I made that choice, even though sometimes it's not what we want. God will shut a door, but we know looking back on it, it worked together for good.
Well, sometimes you just have to go through the process, whether you actually get what you want or not. That's
Absolutely.
why I learned most of my lessons. I didn't get what I was looking for, but it was the journey on the way where I actually learned and was able to take those mistakes and try to turn it into something else.
Absolutely. And I mean, you see these great business people that are so successful. I mean, we see them, they have failures all the time. I mean, Elon Musk, even who we consider probably one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest person in the world. I mean, sometimes those rockets blow up and that's the way it goes. But that's what like you say, you learn from those mistakes and then you learn how to correct it and hopefully get that rocket where you want it to go.
Absolutely. And sometimes the rocket's not even going in that direction. It'll go into another direction.
That's
And
right.
then it's actually a better place for you than it would have been had you got what you wanted, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think you're 100% correct. I think pretty much every time in my life, when God shuts one door, he always opens a better door.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about our elected officials, because sometimes we feel like they're not listening to us. What is the proper process? So what if you wanted your state, let's say Senate, someone's running for Senate, and you wanted your state to be the one that focuses on getting new companies to come in? How do we need to state those questions to the folks in office? I don't want to be a turnoff, but I want to communicate.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, find a need and fill it. And then I think about it's getting to know that person when they come to your community and you have the opportunity to see at a Republican Party or Democratic Party meeting that they're speaking there, then go have your voice be heard. And then I think it's really important that we be respectful with anybody, but especially the elected officials. I mean, some people can be so negative and so outspoken and maybe so loud and really outright mean that we're not a person's not going to be listening to someone that's just being mean about stuff. So I think we got to be polite. We got to have I think you're right, have that question clear of what you're desiring. And again, the importance of building business and bringing business to the community for those jobs. And we've got a lot of changes going on. We're hearing about more and more young people not getting a job coming out of college. And my advice to them would be go work at the bottom in the mailroom if you have to. I mean, what's the big deal? Because, well, I got an education. I don't want to work in the mailroom. Well, if you have an education and you work hard, you're not going to be in the mailroom very long. And the mailroom is going to give you an opportunity to meet every executive in the place. And I've even seen, we recently gave an award to a gentleman that helps run the Tampa Bay Bucks in collaboration with the Florida State Hospitality School, an ethics award. It's actually done in memory of my dad. But this guy started out in the low ranks in the stadium. Then he got his own business in the stadium, and the owners of the stadium of the Tampa Bay Bucks recognized his giftedness, and they brought him on to help run the Tampa Bay Bucks. So you don't ever know what opportunities are going to happen. His name is Brian Ford, an amazing man, amazing leader. But he didn't sit there and say, "I want to be the president and the CEO of the Bucks," and then just walk in with his resume. He started at the very bottom and worked his way up, got his own business in the stadium. They were so impressed with him and how he ran things when they were buying food from him that they brought him onto the company and to the team. And so that's what I would encourage people. If you're looking for an opportunity and there's a certain segment you like, I mean, he had no idea. He was in the hospitality business, but that's what the Bucks are about. They're about hospitality. They got to win, but the key is how do we make the environment so friendly for the fans, make it so much fun, and then people. He takes care of his people. And I know that's a key that we got to do.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a great testimonial for you. This is Phil's brother, Larry. So Larry owned several businesses and thought he wanted to retire. So he sold the businesses. And of course, that didn't last long. And Phil and I do the same thing. We've retired several different times. We just keep it. You got to stay busy and want to help people. And so Larry decided to go to work at McDonald's. And so we were all going, you're going to do what?
He'll be managing in a week.
For a while, not just for a while. But what he noticed about the workers there, and he just wanted to prove a point, and he proved a great point. So, yeah, he flipped burgers, but then he would also pick up the broom when they had a little bit of time. He would just do different things. Well, guess what? The guy who owned the franchise, of course, noticed that. And guess what? He wound up with a big shot position with McDonald's.
That's amazing.
In a short period. And he didn't even go in saying that's what he wanted to do. He just went in, I'm going to be the best burger flipper they've ever had, after this big, business he used to own. So he was flipping burgers. But he made such a great point. To start out at the bottom, you'll grow to the top if you'll just apply yourself.
Absolutely. And again, I think, that's expectation. What's your expectation? You got to sometimes lower it and start where you need to start and then grow into the opportunity. And I think about my own son who has struggled with certain opportunities in Nashville. but it's amazing because he got a degree in supply chain management. And naturally, you would go, okay, Nashville's going to be a great place for him. The opportunities didn't open up for him the way he wanted, so he got in the apartment business, and helping show people the apartments and show them, here's what you're going to have to live in, and this is the good parts of it, and here's some things, based on what you said. I know another complex that you may want to go to, and now it's opening up opportunity for him to get his real estate license, which is in our family. I mean, that's what we do in our careers. I mean, I'm a broker myself. I have used that license many ways, and of course, my dad was. And now he's being open. God's opened up opportunities there to help people find apartments, and you just don't ever know what the path is going to be. I mean, he got basically a business degree, and then God opens that new door, that new opportunity. And I think about it. My dad had actually developed a lot of apartments in Atlanta in the 60s, which gave him the opportunity to sell the business and then catapulted him into the Days Inn story in 1970. So, you never know what God's going to do, and you got to keep pursuing, keep plugging, keep going. And it's just like your brother-in-law, if you work hard, they're going to notice. And I grew up in the restaurant business too, in the hotel business, and we were always taught, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Oh,
So you've heard that, and that's the same way. He was learning from that in McDonald's. I'm caught up with the burgers. It's time to clean the station, clean up the floor, whatever. And that extra initiative will make you stand out. And I think about a story in John 2, which I taught on last week at our Bible study, and how Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine. And he told the servants to fill the vases to the brim with water. And they did what he told them. Fill it to the brim. How many of us would say, okay, I got about 80%. That's good enough. I want to encourage people, fill it to the brim. When you borrow a tool, put it back where it belongs. When you borrow something, give it back in better condition than you took it. Use that as a philosophy. Fill it to the brim and do what God tells you to do, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. We can pray and obey and do. If God's leading you to do something, I want to encourage you to carry out the mission that he's assigned to you.
how many people would say, that's not in my job title?
Absolutely. I mean, you hear it all the time. I mean, get that initiative. Don't just sit around and expect other people to get things done. And I totally agree with you. And of course, I got three fingers pointing at myself. There are plenty of days when I kind of go, well, I'm good with that. I've accomplished that goal. But I want to encourage you, if you've got a dream, you've got a goal, you've got a desire to do something, then go out there and do it and be willing to take the risk. I mean, in today's corporate world, it's as risky to work for somebody and make X salary as it is to try to go do your own thing if that's what you feel led to do. And it doesn't mean you just go give up your job and go do it, unless that's what God's saying. You can be doing your job while you massage a business idea too. You can be doing them both at the same time and be loyal to both of them.
Well, I'll have to tell you what I noticed in the corporate world when I was there is the competitor wasn't necessarily the one who gave me problems. My biggest competitors were the people I worked with. And so I did the outside sales, you would say. And my biggest competitor were the inside sales folks. And my boss kind of let that happen because they were actually, I was paid more because I had to go out and get it and bring it in. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people would just come in, asking for me, and they would take the sale. And my boss let it happen because they were paid about a third of what I was being paid per sale. Sure. But I just let it go because, and then people would come back to me and say, did you get that sale? And I'd say, that's not important. Right. And, just send them straight to my cell phone and I'll take good care of them.
That's very good. That's a way to do it. And I think that attitude is so key. And, I have a little sign down the hallway of where my kids' bedroom used to be. They're all grown up now, but the grandkids still come back and stay down that hallway. It says, attitude is everything.
Oh.
Attitude is everything. It reminds me every day that I look at it when I'm eating breakfast. I look down that hallway and I see that sign above that hallway door, and it reminds me that I need to have a good attitude and maintain that good attitude and try to do the best I can to renew my mind, keep my focus on what God wants me to do, and I keep looking up, if you will. And I'm really a big believer in that. And I think again, I'm in a physical challenge. I'm in a wheelchair scooter type thing, and I can have a bad attitude about it, or I can have a good attitude. I can be grateful that I can drive a car with hand controls, or I can be upset that I can't drive a car with my feet. I mean, we have a choice, and we have to have the good attitude and maintain that attitude that is pleasing to God, and then trying to encourage people with what their goals are.
Because you never know what somebody else down the street is having to go through. And if they see that you're a success at it, the same issue they're having, it gives them hope. And I feel like in this world right now, there's no hope. People are just fighting too much. And it starts in politics. Well, actually, it starts at home. But I'm just saying, in politics, with the people who are supposed to be serving us, sometimes we feel like they're not serving us. And yeah, that it can bring that. So what Phil and I do, we concentrate on the Fiesel household. We make sure we got our act together. And I actually like having gardens and stuff like that anyway. So I'm not seeing an issue whatsoever. The hens are laying a lot of eggs. Yeah, oh boy, aren't they? I mean, even in the chilly weather, they're laying a lot of eggs. So anyway, you can do things. You don't want to rely on the government so far, and you want the right people in the government. But I think if we quit relying so much on the government, we might all be better off too.
Amen. And I totally agree with that. And I think also it's important. You and Phil seem to have a good time with each other. You seem to have fun. And yes, it's work. He's helping you now, and it's work. And you got to do certain things, meet certain schedules. You've got your schedule pretty full, but you also have fun. My wife and I went down to FSU, Virginia Tech weekend last weekend. And she went down there because I had a bunch of fraternity brothers coming back together, people I hadn't seen in years, coming from Colorado and Ohio and different parts of Florida and Georgia. But if I had to go see all 25 of these guys, it would take me years, right, to go to their houses, go to their cities. We were all coming together, and she was actually the only lady. I didn't realize no one else was bringing their wives, and she put up with it, was very, very good, kept a great attitude. But we had a blast, just talking to each other, encouraging each other, telling old stories. And we've got Thanksgiving coming up. We got opportunity to be thankful with our family. And yeah, there's not everything's going to be perfect. But when you look around the room and you think about who's not here from last year or 2 years ago, and you think about eternity and where we're going, we have faith in Jesus. We know we're going to heaven. That is so important. But the key was, we just had fun. And sometimes we high-driven A-types, type Ds, whatever you want to call us, we sometimes don't know how to just laugh and have fun. And I want to encourage everybody out there, find a good comedian you can listen to and just laugh at. And then we've been watching Young Sheldon. I don't know if you've ever watched that. People are like, what are you talking about that? But it's about Sheldon growing up in a Texas town in the church. Mom goes to church. Dad's kind of half foot, half in and half out. And the whole dynamics of what it would be like. And obviously, it's just fun to laugh at the stories, and especially how you relate it to your own family. Because, I grew up in a Baptist church, and I can totally, in Atlanta area, North Atlanta, and you can just totally relate to them. But find something you can laugh at that's clean, that can encourage you and help you remember where you came from.
Absolutely. Clint, we've got to go into a commercial break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Let's talk about the holidays coming up.
Yes.
I'm excited. We'll be right back.
Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. As I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. It's always such a fun ride. I love having Clint Day on the show with me. Clint, so good to be with you today.
Great to be with you, Donna. Thank you.
It's always so much fun and informative, too. Absolutely. I was talking with a potential client, and he asked, he said, what's your show about? And I said, well, it's not about me. I said, believe me, not interesting enough. I said, I just happen to have awesome guests on the show. And I said, I want you to be one of them. And so hopefully we're going to be talking about tech jobs pretty soon right here on this show. Wanted to say thank you, though, to Northeast Alabama Community College. And they're staying with us as well. They're out in Alabama. And so we've talked a lot about tech jobs with them as well. I wanted to mention this. We were talking about jobs earlier. So Phil and I had some electrical work done here and with our rental property that's on the land as well. And so young guy and had another guy with him and new truck. And so he did his job, very, very precise and everything he did, very good customer service and asked a lot of questions. And waited on us to give him the answers before he even proceeded with his job. And so after it was all over with, I said, I just wanted to congratulate you guys. I said, I'm very, very impressed. And so the guy who did most of the work looked at me and he said, my buddies all went to college and got their degrees and all this kind of stuff. And he said, they kind of hammered me about going to tech school, and he's going to college too, but the company's paying for it. So there are things you can do, And he said, the thing about it is we all meet up sometimes and go out to eat. They get like the cheapest thing on the menu. And he said, I can eat a steak if I want to. He
Absolutely.
said, paid cash for my truck, put a big down payment on his house. And he said, all because I was willing to do it a different way. And I said, I know what you mean. I said, the company I used to work for would actually reimburse us, GTE, if you wanted to further your degree. And by the way, companies want you to further your degree. And if you'll just ask, all they can say is no. And of course, there's the credentials. Sometimes they'll say, well, we need you to hang on to this company for 2 years. We're going to pay for it. You had to keep up a particular grade point average. You had to pay for it up front. They would reimburse you. And so it's all in the way you look at things. Like you said, start at the bottom, and work your way up. Those make the best managers, by the way, the ones who know how to do the things out on the floor. And I'll mention another lady. Her name is Kaylee, and she's with the Gadsden Mall in Gadsden, Alabama. And so her mall is doing awesome. One of the reasons why is because she was in retail. She started out on the floor, used to work for Body, I think Bath and Body. I think that's who she worked for. So
Bath and Beyond.
Beyond, that's it. I'm so glad you.
Yes.
So you give them, because this was awesome. Yes. She got this great training on the floor. Then she moved to management. Well, guess what? She knows how to answer those questions for the mall merchants. When they're coming in and they feel like, well, she's just not up there on some tower somewhere looking down on us. She will actually go to each merchant and she'll notice something that could just be, a little bit needs to be reinvented. And she'll mention that, not to tell them how to run their businesses, but to help them so they can make a profit. And that's what it's all about. And I think she's fabulous. So I told her we were moving, and she said, where are you moving to? Because she's one of my sponsors. I said, well, we're going to be close to the Anderson, South Carolina area. And she said, I have a mall there. So she grew up in the company. So now she covers several malls. So because of her and our friendship, I was able to already secure the Anderson Mall when we moved here. You never know where it's going to lead you.
That's right. That's so true. And again, I think about, you're talking about AI and the impact of this too. And like you say, relationships, you don't want to burn bridges. You never know when you'll cross that bridge again. And it's just so true how God opens those doors, and you're treating the person right. They treated you right. You helped them build their business. They help you build your business. And those relationships are so important. And I admire you for doing that. But you talked about AI and the opportunities it's going to create. And we hear a lot, there's been some problems with the financial side of AI. It's a bubble that's going to burst or whatever, like the other bursts that have happened. But the bottom line is that's a product that is here to stay. And we know, we see the benefit of it. We can write a paper. We can do different things. We can give it ideas, and it can help us communicate. I mean, there's no doubt. But obviously, there's nothing like the human mind to carry things out. And I have a program, as you know, Clint Day, Speak the Truth in Love. And we're on YouTube and radio and that type of thing. But one of the things I'm going to be talking to a gentleman about today is literally, he's a media guy at Jacksonville, literally talking about how he's going to develop a program with him as the experiment, if you will, that he'll be able to answer questions for future generations with his own type answers using AI. Now, that's kind of weird, and it can get off track if it's not done right. But think about that. If you had the ability, and I don't want to be creepy about it, but when you think about it, if you had videos of someone you respected, a family member, grandmother, granddad, whatever, a mom or dad or whoever it is, that has mannerisms of that person, and you could ask them a question, and not to be weird about it, again, not like a genie in a bottle or anything, but if they had the fundamentals of what their voice was and how their mannerisms, how they use their hands, their eyes, whatever, just think about that, how neat of an idea that could potentially be to encourage somebody. So, how many times do you think about, like in my dad's case, he died, passed away, but he's promoted to glory, as like I like to say, at 44. But think about the times, what was their voice like? And I can go back to where he was on Christian television or whatever, and I can hear him say certain things, and I remember his voice. I still remember it, but when I hear it, it doubles up. But think about that idea, that concept. And so there's some things that we can do that are going to be good with the AI, but you also know there needs to be regulations to make sure it's done in the proper way. And then you got China over here and other competition that are going to just let it run wild, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be that balance that our government has going to have to play a role in to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Because I'm sure you've even heard Chat GPT, some lawsuits have been brought against them recently because they were AI was advising how to take someone's life. And that's a very scary aspect. But then you look at the other side, hey, I want to develop a business plan, and I'm going to give you the ideas of what I have, and it can help you come up with that business plan in ways that, an SBA loan application or whatever, they have good questions there too, and help you develop that business plan. But anyway, that AI is so it's critical right now at what it's doing in our society.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to be able to go back and talk to my great grandmother, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm an herbalist. And so I found out in recent years, my great grandmother was an herbalist. Now, her dad was a doctor.
Yes.
And this is back in the day. My great great grandfather was a medical doctor, paid with chickens, that kind of thing. I mean, that's the kind of medical doctor he was.
You come from a very smart family.
Oh my goodness. I did not know my great grandmother was an herbalist. She was just not called an herbalist. So my Aunt Elizabeth, who's 104 years old,
Wow.
has more smarts to her than most 20-year-olds do. But now she reads and she's still active. She lives by herself, by the way, does not want anybody to live with her. She's just a very independent woman. So she told me, she said, now, my mother did what you do.
Wow.
And I said, well, what did she do? And she said, she raised bees. She said, you raise bees. She used the honey from the bees in salves.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were used for medicinal reasons for people. And she said she used like roots of trees and stuff like that. And she said, exactly like you're doing. And I was thinking, man, I said, well, how did she do it? And she said, well, see, here I wasn't paying any attention, or I could be helping you right now. She said she just remembered that she would use the wax from the honey,
Sure.
and it would harden the salve. And I said, that's exactly what I'm doing. And she said, I know. She said, I'm just telling you, it's in your blood. She said, it's in your blood. Instead of DNA, they always say it's in your blood. And she said, it's amazing that you've got that going on.
Amen. Amen. I tell you, I think I love that. And I encourage you to make videos of what you do so you can pass it on. We recently went up to Michigan to see my wife's family, and I really felt led. Her dad is in his mid 70s, and I really felt led that we needed to go see her dad. And I can't explain it because we saw our mom a lot this summer. We didn't see her dad as much. And so we went up there, and when we were talking, he's a storyteller. He loves telling stories, great stories. And I'm like, do you mind if I record this on my phone, on my iPhone? And he had wisdom that, Sonia said, I mean, I've heard all these stories all my life, but I've never had recorded my dad saying these things. And I want to encourage people out there, if you got a video or whatever you want to do for a family member, even if it's just maybe wishing them a happy birthday. I mean, whatever it is. This is your first birthday, one of my granddaughters, right? And do the 1-minute video or whatever you want and tell the story. Tell what's important to you. Give it to that person. And like you just said, wouldn't you love to have a recording of your great grandmother or grandmother telling stories about her, raising things that help make you feel better or whatever it is. And so we don't, I think, I just want to encourage people to do that. And that's one reason I'm interviewing this friend of mine, John, out of Jacksonville, about what his vision is for this. And again, the message that we want to pass on to future generations. And I'm amazed when we go back and look at where we came from, the legacy we lived. No, it's not perfect. We know people made mistakes, but they also did a lot of things right. And that's where we came from.
Absolutely. And that's what it takes. I like to hear what somebody did wrong.
Absolutely, totally right.
Not at all. I want
Yes.
to know. So, and I don't mind telling my daughter-in-law stuff I did wrong. I mean, I love to cook. So when she and Brad were first married, she called me crying one time. And I said, "What did he do to you?" And she said, "Nothing." She said, "I burned the macaroni and cheese." And she said, "Brad told me that you're like the best cook and all this." And I had a talk with my son about that. And I said, "Don't ever say that again. You could turn me and her into enemies." I said, "Never say that again." So anyway, so we talked, and I said, "Do you think I was born knowing how to bake biscuits?" And then I said, "The first biscuits I made, I definitely remember this." I said, I was about 11. And so my brother said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, if a burglar comes in on us, we could kill him with these biscuits." I said, "They were already dropped. They were not good biscuits." Okay. And I said, "Those are things that you just learn, and you have to make a few mistakes along the way, and I could write a book. I mean, I could write a book on what not to do in single thing I've ever done live. It'd be a hit. I need to do that. Let's get AI to help me do that, because I've definitely made a lot of mistakes, a lot. But if you learn from them, that's okay. I mean, learn. And you could tell me something 50 times and I wouldn't get it up here. But now if I make the mistake, I'm going to remember it.
It's so true. And I mean, one of my favorite questions in the interviews I do is, what's the biggest setback that's ever happened in your life that helped you become the person you are today? And I think we all have those questions, right? And I would say for me, God's allowed a lot of things in my life. I mean, my father passed away at 44, being told I had a muscle disease. And by the time I'm in mid 30s, I'd be in a wheelchair full time, which I defied till my mid 50s. And then, a fraternity brother writing a letter saying, "Hey, I can tell you're not happy. If I was you, I would turn it around." And March 7th, 1981, God setting me free of a drug addiction and then turning my life around. But I would also say the biggest setback that ever happened in my life that helped me be who I am today was going through a difficult divorce. And they're all difficult. No matter what anybody says. I mean, we're friendly, we're nice to each other. Yeah, maybe you are, and that's good. But it's very, very difficult. But God's allowed that to bring me to where I am in the relationship I am. And He's restored what the locust has stolen, right? So we're going to have those setbacks, but I love a quote I've heard in the past: a setback is a setup for a comeback. And I just love that statement. And we know that God's word's clear. Romans 8:28, it says that all things work together for good that are called according to His purpose. And I remember the first time I heard that, my mom had been in a plane crash off the southern coast of Chile, getting ready to go to a cruise in Antarctica. My Aunt Pat was killed in that plane crash, one of my mom's best friend and a business associate. And I remember as a young man, she came back and said, Romans 8:28, it's going to work together for good. And I'm sitting there going, how in the world is that going to work together for good? I don't understand that, Mom. I do not understand that. And but that's what happened. I mean, one of my other aunts became a committed Christian, and she'd pretty much kind of been agnostic before that. We saw all sorts of people's lives that were changed by the stories and the testimony of my aunt, and the lady that worked for our family, and the lady that was my mom's friend. All sorts of ripple effect of that were very, very positive, even though it was very, very hard to go through that. And so that's what we got to keep focusing on. We know we've had this setback, but what's God going to do to make it better? And again, it goes back to that attitude. Am I going to have a bad attitude about this? Or am I trying to focus on how is this going to work together for my good? It's amazing how it does that. I mean, you hear all sorts of stories, tragedy, whatever, but where's your trust going to be? Is it in yourself, another person, the government? That's not going to work. That's going to be temporary. But we got to keep, in my view, trusting God to take care of it and work it together for our good.
Well, I know I'm going to sound ancient when I say this. So I remember back in the 70s, Jimmy Carter was president. And I remember the interest rates. You remember how high those interest rates were back in those days? And I'm hearing young folks now talk about, interest rates being what they are now.
Correct.
And I don't want to sound like old fogey and all that kind of stuff, but I'm sitting there thinking, what would you do if interest rates were in the almost 20%? I mean, they were heading in that area right there, but there's a way you can overcome that. And so my son and daughter-in-law, I told you about them. They got a mortgage for 30 years. Now, prior to that, he had bought a mobile home and he was going to college and he rented out 2 of the rooms to his college buddies. So they were making that payment. Plus he was putting money back. Well, when he and Larissa got married, they lived in the mobile home for a while. Then they were able to use that money to apply for a pretty decent down payment on a townhouse. And so they set a goal. I was nervous about them saying 30 years, but I didn't say anything. I was like, they got to figure this out on their own. And so we didn't say anything. And then he said, we've got a goal set. And I said, what's the goal? He said, we're going to have this paid off before our 10th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
I said, good. And he said, well, we're going to make the house payment, and then we're going to put Larissa's whole check into this house payment. We think we can have it paid off in less than 10 years. And they did it, but they stuck to it. And I'm glad I didn't put my nosy mouth into it. I'm glad that it worked out like it did, because when you do the amortization and figure it out, they did come out better doing the 30-year loan than they would have if they'd done a 10 or a 20-year loan. Mm-hmm. So it worked out in better numbers for them. The money they saved on interest alone was over $100,000.
Yes.
Now, kids need to understand. I say kids, anybody that's younger, 60 and under is kid to me. But I would just like people to know that you can pay more of a house payment. If you've got one of those high interest loans, pay more. And, there's some things you can't do. You can't get fake nails. You can't get your eyelashes done. You can't do certain things anymore. Stop with the tattoos. Put that money into your house payment. You'll save so much money. It won't matter what the interest rate is. You'll still be able to survive and save money.
Amen. Well, you sound like Dave Ramsey there. Pay that mortgage off quicker and make those extra payments. Take a 30-year loan and turn it by making one extra payment a year toward the principal. It'll pay it off in 15, 16 years. It'll take a 30-year mortgage, turn it into 15, 16. And I totally agree with that. Again, once you're out of debt, it is so freeing. And pay those credit cards off every month. Don't pay the minimum payments. Pay it all off because it's 20%. I used to kind of joke around with my kids. $1 a day for 40 years, okay? Growing at 10% a year is almost $200,000. $1 a day. So take $5, pack of cigarettes, whatever. 40 years at 10% annually is almost $1 million. So those people making that decision, they're playing those $5 lottery tickets. They're paying $5 for the coffee. They're paying $5 for the pack of cigarettes. Quit doing that. Take that $5 a day. The end of the year, pick your favorite stock. If it's whatever you like, pick your favorite stock. And by the time you're, 40 years later, you have almost $1 million. And how much of a sacrifice is $5 a day? I mean, I don't go to Starbucks. First of all, I don't like their corporate mission. Yeah, but I absolutely know that just a little bit every day can make a difference in a life.
Oh, it's huge. It's such a huge difference. Just little habits that you have. Yeah. And I like my own coffee because I like it pretty strong. And
me too. I do the same thing. It's going to make it strong enough for me. And I also know it's fresh. I just made it. So.
and I'm so ridiculous about it. I buy my own green beans and I roast them. And I don't feel like
Wow.
I'm doing it.
That's
And
amazing.
no, it's easy. It's like one of the easiest things you can ever do. You can do roasters. Now, you do it in the oven, you're going to have smoke alarms are going to go off and all that. But if you'll buy your own little roaster, they cost somewhere around $50, and buy your own roaster, and roast your own things, and it gets that filler off as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's pure taste. I mean, it's better than any Starbucks. It's better than anything. And you got a good, fresh cup of coffee. I mean, it's like the best. I think it's time. Oh, no, we've got about 3 minutes left in this segment. But I wanted to mention one thing. You talked about the compound interest and the going up. My granddad had his own country version of it, and I have to tell you what his country, and it made a huge impact in my life. So he had cattle and pigs and chickens and all this kind of stuff. That's where I get my love of animals. I love animals, but they're pets with me though. I couldn't eat one of them, so that's the problem. So anyway, he said, did you know that when you have a baby calf, if you pick that baby calf up once a day until it grows into a cow, you'll be able to actually lift a cow?
Yes.
How's that possible? He said, well, you'll be building your muscles up and you could lift a cow virtually.
Mm-hmm.
I never tried it, but it makes sense. I never had a cow. So, but it does make sense that it's just eating that elephant one bite at a time. I mean, just lifting a calf and then just every day doing it. That'd be a good workout for some of these football players.
So that's a brilliant idea, and it's just true. You're right. A little bit at a time, and that gradual growth. And I agree. It's amazing the power of interest growing. I mean, you can think about $1, and if you take the rule of 72 says take that dollar and divide it by 72, what interest rate you pick. Let's just say you pick 10%. 72 divided by 10 is 7.2 years. So if you have $1 and it grows 10% a year, and in 7.2 years, you'll have $2. That is the power of compounding. That's the importance of those small investments you can make in companies that you believe in. Maybe again, go back to the type of your Apple, or probably not GM nowadays, but some type of growth business, because of that opportunity. And everybody goes, well, wait a minute, how do we know it's going to grow 10%? Historically, the stock market, for example, you're buying into an existing company. Again, I'm not a stock advisor. I'm not telling anybody to think about it and pray about it, figure out where God wants you to do it. But those small incremental investments will grow to bigger things later. But the very same is true. You spend that $5 on that cup of coffee, you're going to lose that opportunity for that to grow. Now, granted, I want people to have fun. If you want to play golf, I mean, go have fun and exercise and enjoy life, but also be thinking about, what am I investing in? Who am I investing in? Who am I spending time? And we've always heard quality time, but we also know spending time with your family, it's not just quality time, it's quantity time. So who are you investing in? Who's investing in you? Because the people you hang out with influences beyond what we know.
Absolutely. Clint, thank you so much for being with me today. It's always so informative and always so much fun as well. And thank you guys so much for watching. It's so important. Continue sending email of love on Donna@DonnasEdge.com, Donna@DonnasEdge.com. Gonna have to call it a day. Clint, hang around so I can get you set up for December.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I'll see you guys later. Take care.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.